Happy Sunday, Smite fans, and welcome into the SCC. We've got an action-packed day of Smite competitive action. I've said action twice already, and it's been about 5 seconds into the show. We've got an action-packed day of Smite.
3?
Yes, 3. You can hear Mifflin joins me. Action-packed day of Smite. 4 ahead of us here on this fine Sunday. It all starts off with a great matchup here in the SCC, our final SCC matchup of the weekend. As he's already spoiled, Mifflin joins me on the desk here.
You don't think they saw me in the crane shot when it swooped in?
No, all eyes are on me, Miff.
Oh, that is true.
No,
you're right. No, you're right.
God, it feels so weird. I hate gassing myself up. I hate it. All eyes were on you, Miff. Nobody knew I was here. Those sorts of things. Anyway, SCC should be a good matchup here. Just F6 versus Goodnight Nick in a very competitive EU region.
Yeah, I've got great expectations of this one. Worth noting, this is going to be Masskill's second ever SCC match, and he's got a pretty stacked team that he's lined up against, but maybe we wait a little bit longer before we jump straight into that.
Yeah, you hope that you're able to get a win in one of your early SCC performances, but Goodnight Nick, a very difficult team to play against. Here's the schedule for this week in the SCC. Gotten all but one game played here so far. A whole bunch of 2-0s. Team Joystick, 2-0 over Pandemonium. Elysium, 2-0 over the Snake Hunters. That one was not particularly close. Sleekness, Tiburones, Winter Dogs all grabbed themselves wins over their opponents in 2-0 fashion. And one final set here this weekend, and it's Goodnight Nick versus Just F6. And with Joystick and Elysium getting those 2-0 wins, the standings now become so much more important for this Goodnight Nick team. Remember, this was a Goodnight Nick team, Miff, that handed Elysium a loss in the standings last week. And so they are at 4-3. And 4-3 I don't think does this team justice. Very competitive in every single match that they play. That said, a winnable and a should-win matchup against a 1-6 Just F6 team.
Yeah, Just F6 has been struggling to keep their feet underneath them, whereas Goodnight Nick has been on a kind of resurgence recently, similar to what we've seen from the Scarabs or the Oni Warriors. These guys kind of started off a little bit slow and have since really tightened up, and the standings kind of reflect that now. I'm expecting a pretty good set here.
You're a big fan of telling people to tighten up, aren't you?
Yeah, it's my thing.
Tighten up.
It's a Southern thing.
It is a Southern thing. I don't tell people to tighten up, though.
Are you from the South?
How do you... So I was born in Cincinnati, and I
Ohio?
Have lived here since, first grade, so I think I am technically from the South. Let's talk about this Goodnight Nick team, though. Deathwalker, Ice, Wolfie, Emilzy, and Streak Up. This is a stacked roster here. Deathwalker out of the Solar Lane's been playing great for this Goodnight Nick team. Ice in the jungle. Has been doing some big things. Good setup for the rest of the squad here as well. And it's no surprise that a roster like this has found some success recently.
Yeah, players that have played on the world stage, players that have plenty of SPL talent behind them, and players that really should be dominating here within the SCC are what comprises the entirety of this Goodnight Nick roster. I think that since you've already highlighted some of your favorite players, I guess I'll take who's left. Wolfie, Emilzy, and Streak Up have all been incredibly impressive as well, and I think you got to keep your eyes on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Wolfie out of this mid lane, I think, is where my eyes go today, because the rest of this team has done such a good job of rallying around Wolfie, creating space for the mid laner to sit back, do some damage, get some kills, and this team is much better off for it. So a favorable and, again, an expected win, what should be a win for a Goodnight Nick team that's 4-3, but, again, doesn't really do them justice. They beat Elysium last weekend in 3 games. And specifically, it's because you're going up against a Just F6 team that has struggled so far here in the SCC at 1-6. It's Toddy, Rotwin, Sodost, Masskill, as you mentioned, Miff, in his second SCC set ever, and Listimics. And these are names that we've gotten used to seeing in the SCC. It feels like this is a roster that is kind of stuck around, that they keep qualifying into the SCC, and just need to get some of that momentum going. And so maybe add in Masskill. You change things up. Might take some time to get that synergy going, but maybe a move for the future, especially when you're in an impactful role like the jungle. And so it should be a fun matchup to watch here, Miff, the new jungler here for this Just F6 team.
And I think you kind of hit on one of the major points for this squad in that it isn't really individual play that holds them back. Each one of these guys is incredibly talented as a player in their respective roles. Definitely forces to be reckoned with. It's more so the macro team play that has been holding back this team. Occasionally, it just feels like there's desyncs in what the shot calling is, or where you want to go, or which neutral objective you're focusing, whether or not you want to coin toss the neutral objective or take the engagement. It just seems like there's a lot of disagreements within these late game call situations, and if they clean that up, I think that this squad really could at least push Goodnight Nick to the edge.
Right. I mean, you're getting towards the end of this phase of the SCC. If you're building up synergy, you're making roster changes. It's all about looking towards the future and future splits and phases of the SCC and making moves a bit further down the road. But hey, no better time than the present to start getting some momentum in the EU SCC. Picks and bans for game number 1 will start us off right here and right now. And so you're looking at this Goodnight Nick team. They're in this first pick spot here. Miv, just F6. Of course, will then get to answer back with a couple picks of their own. We saw in a few of the highlights there. This is a team in Goodnight Nick that love grabbing this team out early. Wolfie is very good on that pick. The rest of the team great at providing him space, and Wolfie an aggressive enough player in a good way to jump on in and get some damage done. How about this? Soul, though, banned out early on. Is Soul good enough now to warrant an early ban here?
I believe these SCC matches were played on the 8.8 balance patch,
last
so
week.
This is a slightly different meta here, but Soul is definitely a god, especially within the North American and European SCC level that has been incredibly dominant in 2 roles. Both Hunter and Mid have been able to find a lot of pressure, so it makes sense to me that Goodnight Nick don't want to deal with that one. But considering Assassins aren't really the flavor of the week in the 8.8 balance, I think the gods you got to keep your eyes on inside of this set, Osiris and Erlang Shen. We'll see whether or not either of these teams prioritize those very highly.
Wow.
Goodnight Nick throwing a little curveball here.
Go ahead,
Morgan Le Fay.
You got it. Go ahead.
Unreactable CC. Dragonflight is super hard to deal with. You either gotta jump on her and pray that she's gonna use it and instantly pop your beads, or jump on her and pray that she doesn't use it and just roll those dice.
It's been such an interesting kind of journey for Morgan Le Fay as far as pick and ban priority goes, because for a while there, you know, it was Tiamat, Morgan Le Fay, 1-2, either both are banned, both are picked, something like that. Teams were happy to have either. Kind of took a little bit of a dip as far as pick ban priority goes. Now starting to resurge just a little bit. In Wolfie for Goodnight Nick here, likes Morgan Le Fay enough and some of that unreactable CC range damage with the ultimate to lock her in first and foremost overall. Raijin and Osiris, that's been a very popular second wave of picks as far as the 8.8 patch goes. Raijin plus Osiris, if you're able to get that in the second wave of picks, you're feeling pretty good about yourselves. You could say the same thing about Sobek and Izanami, though, Myth. I mean, Morgan Le Fay, Sobek, Iza, you've got a great late-game composition already built up.
Yeah, I really like this Izanami pick just in general. The amount of pressure that she affords your team is incredible. Sobek as well is a great flex pick. You can either toss him into the support role and have that high kill pressure lane thanks to that pluck, or you toss him over into solo and you've got great scaling the late game as far as team fights are concerned, and you have a solo laner that you just don't have to concern yourself with. He's going to be able to hold his own in the majority of matchups. When you're talking about late game scaling, Dave, I think you got to look at this Just F6 roster already. Artemis locked in. She's one of the best late game hypercarry hunters in the game. Raijin as well has phenomenal scaling. Osiris going to act as a bridge to make sure you're able to get to that point. But considering this is the SCC, I'm obligated to bring up that Osiris can go into the soul lane. It does not generally at the SPL level. Yeah, I have to say it. Osiris might be headed for the short lane, but I prefer him in the jungle, and I am expecting to see him in the jungle.
Oh, Khepri locked in here as well for Just F6. Khepri's become a very popular pick as far as support goes, maybe one of the most contested as far as not always banned out against certain players at the SPL and SCC level. It is banned out, usually left open and usually picked when left open. So Just F6 have a great lane here in the duo lane as far as Artemis and Khepri go. On the flip side, though, Myth with Mulan and Kabrakan banned out, that's going to leave Nike plus Fafnir open to round out the draft for Goodnight Nick, and they've got a well-rounded composition. You've got some engage, you've got some tankiness, and I think that Coerce is going to be great for this Izanami.
No, it's going to be incredibly strong, and normally when we see Nike locked in, and I do believe this is going to be Nike jungle, Mannequin Scepter is something you look towards as well, so that's going to increase your clear thanks to the cleave auto attacks. You've got 2 auto attackers on your team, Izanami and Nike, so Coerce going to be pretty strong here. Meanwhile, on the other side, This is still an incredibly interesting draft from Just F6. Set does have flex potential. We've seen him played in 4 roles throughout his competitive history. I believe Hunter, mid, jungle, and solo. But if I had to allocate him here, God, I think I'm putting him in the jungle Osiris solo.
Here's the good news, Miff. We're going to get an answer to those questions shortly. Game number 1 between Just F6 and Goodnight Nick. Kicking off right now, our final SCC set of the weekend. And Miff, you are spot on. What a way to start off this Sunday. Miff, 1 for 1.
Lucky.
1 for 1 on his calls. Osiris solo, masked kill on the set out of the jungle. And admittedly, Miff, that's a bit of a curveball. And again, it's worth mentioning, this is played on the 8.8 update. And so Set still prioritized despite not receiving all the big Mace Tree buffs just yet. And masked kill in his second SCC set ever. Picking something that's a little bit unique here for Just F6.
Yeah, you got to go with your own flavor. Be the tried and true, what you're used to playing. And it seems like Maskill does like this set. And with Mannequin Scepter, you can still go towards that kind of auto attack style with Set. Stone Cutting Sword comes to mind as a great pickup. And some decent targets on the other side that'll be pretty easy for him to lock down, namely Wolfie. Once that Dragonflight has already been expended, should be susceptible to some pretty easy set damage, as well as Streak Up. You can use that Skewer to chase out the leap, as Izanami's leap is incredibly telegraphed. So I do like Set inside of this one, but when you've got such a powerful pick like Osiris, it just feels like a slight waste to have him anywhere but then the jungle.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be unique to see the power curve for Listimics here. I mean, by rotation time, you hope that the Osiris is strong enough to make these the impacts on the team fights. Level 2 reached by Streak Up and Emilzy, and they're going to put some pressure on Rotwen and Toddy here. And we see this pretty often, Miff, a dual lane with Izanami. Getting early pressure, you hit level 2, you step up, you're able to auto-attack through the wave. Unfortunately for Streak Up, a bit low on mana. And so we'll have to prioritize those abilities a little bit better over in the duo lane as this laning phase continues on. It's Tainted Steel start for Streak Up here, plus the bow. Toddy going a little bit more standard with the cowl and the bow on the other side. Tainted Steel will help out. A little bit of that healing on the other side as this game goes on.
Yeah, that lifesteal from Toddy GR going to take a minor hit inside of the laning phase, and it's generally an all-right stat stick just for power, and considering you're already playing Izanami, I'm not too worried about this guy's lane matchup. We've already seen that this wave has been pushed inside of the Tier 1 tower for the entirety of the minute and 30 seconds we've been watching this one, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon unless the junglers start to rotate over. It's very easy for Goodnight Nick to kind of get used to playing this aggressive style inside the duo lane, continually sit on this Tier 1 tower line, and that should just open the door for Maskill to come on in.
Yeah, what's our expected kind of power curve here for Ice Ice? Look, Nike jungle is not something I think myself or many viewers will be used to seeing, and we see it in the solo lane more often than not, and we know what the team fight rotations kind of look like. I mean, is this the type of pick you get mannequins, you get what looks like it'll be early tankiness plus damage for Ice Ice? You expect this Nike to be active pretty early in the game?
I do. I mean, first 5 or so levels, you're always feeling pretty good regardless of what your jungler pick is. If you're going for that Mannequin Scepter, it's just that strong of an item in its own right. Is Wolfie in some trouble?
Whoa, Thunder Crash in, and the unreactable CC is not enough. It hits. It doesn't hit hard enough for Wolfie. First blood to Just F6, and Miff, that is a simple rotation in. It's a red buff invade, and Maskill, the newcomer to the SCC, grabs first blood over one of the powerhouse teams in Goodnight Nick.
Was a little bit expensive for Maskill, though. Is forced to use the beads on that unreactable CC. Somehow reacted to it. Good on him. Maskill able to take out Wolfie inside of this one. First blood over to Just F6, and red buff invade also going to go their way. Ice Ice a little bit absent inside of this engagement. You'd expect him to want to be the one aggressing inside of this matchup, especially considering pre-ultimate stage. I'd argue that Ice Ice likely does have a distinct advantage over Maskill inside the fight, but if we're talking about advantages in the fight in the early game, Wolfie on the Morgan Le Fay generally doesn't even want to step up to Isodos on this Raijin. That Thunder Crash is just such a strong engage tool.
He gets walked at here by Emilzy, who will use the hammer to stun out Rotwin. Is a Tycho Drums in the mid lane. Wolfie sets up some damage and will knock up on a Maskill. Ice Ice. Ice Ice will rotate on into the mid lane here. Drops down. The Sentinel of Zeus, that'll get a slow, and they shield. Re-engage could be here. Plenty of damage to come out from Wolfie, who reads Sodos' Thunder Crash in. and Goodnight Nick have answered with the kill in the mid lane, exactly what the doctor ordered for Wolfie.
Yeah, that Thunder Crash in, a little bit questionable for me. That's not his tower he was heading for, and he wasn't aiming at any of the enemy gods, maybe just trying to avoid some of that damage from Morgan Le Fay's ultimate, but got to think that even if you do avoid that ultimate, you're probably dead considering where you leap to. So a nice little return kill for Goodnight Nick to equalize this game 4 minutes in. That was exactly what I was talking about, man. Ice-Ice's damage is so strong at this point. Having to disarm, to deal with mass kill, and make sure that he isn't able to find value off that Mannequin Scepter kind of adds up in such a way that Goodnight Nick, even though they start off that fight poorly, win it in the end. Yeah,
and then look at how the mid lane has changed now. It's a 1-level lead for Wolfie, despite First Blood going to mass kill. Up here for Soto, so Thunder Crash will be there. And Wolfie realizing that it's a fruitless effort. Won't spend any more time, but Soto's now jumped on a little bit, minute and 102 seconds without those beads. Rotwin silenced and pulled back in. Scarab's Blessing is here, but he won't use it. He'll be able to walk away, but this has just been the trend of this duo lane. Emilzy and Streak have just been pushing this pressure in against Rotwin and Toddy. The Khepri and Artemis have just not been able to be comfortable. And now the purple buff looks to be invaded, and the red buff does as well. Ice will pick that one up, grab a little extra damage. Keep life uncomfortable for Sotos. This Goodnight Nick team, Myth, feels like all over the map, just driving the pressure.
Luckily, though, for Just F6, they are able to pull back a little bit of farm their own way, mass kill, invading the speed buff and the back camps as well, just trying to punish Ice for putting so much emphasis in the mid, so he's going to turn this corner and realize that speed buff is gone. But it seems to be a calculated decision from Ice, who picks up his own red buff once he invades it, saying, yo, my speed's probably not going to be there when I get back. I might as well deal a little bit more damage.
You're the type you invade a speed buff, you're dropping a ward to watch the enemy jungler walk out of base 100%. And realize their speed buff is gone. As you should, right? I mean, that's you're making a gutsy call, and you got to be able to reap the extra rewards.
Look, sometimes you drop the ward on the speed buff, and you see them kind of like stop once they see it, and you just know, oh man, they're typing at their team. That feels so good.
Yeah, it feels right, even if it's just a ... something like that. Ice has drawn a lot of eyes here, but this is going to be a massive ultimate. And look at the follow-up damage from Wolfie. Rotwin used the Scarab's Blessing on himself in the mid lane, though. The remainders of Just F6 jumped on. Sotos falls on the back end of it. Wolfie has another. And Goodnight Nick find a great fight here. Find 2 kills. Could be a third if Rotwin is spotted out. But what a collapse here from Goodnight Nick. Just F6 didn't stand a chance.
No, Just F6 committed so much early on inside of the engagement, using both leaps from Mass Kill and Isotos. Leaves them high and dry, especially considering Rotwin forced to use the Scarab's Blessing on himself. Means that you're not able to use it on one of your carries. Not an ideal situation. And Goodnight Nick, such a potent team, strategically able to route the enemy, move in, and just make sure that they're able to lock them down.
Nice. Look at the damage onto Toddy. A couple more auto attacks is all you need for Streak Up. Unable to find it, but now Toddy is just back beneath the tower. You're low on health. You do have an ultimate. You don't have beads.
Are we diving?
Emilzy might be, considering going for a swim here around the backside of the Tier 1 tower, but Toddy is healed up enough. Makes it a little bit more difficult. Purple buff invade. That one's good from Goodnight Nick. Master kill rotating to the left, though. He'll teleport in, find some damage and the slow onto Emilzy and Streaka, but Emilzy walking on away from this one, and now the time has been spent with no reward for Just F6 and their jungler.
7.5 minutes in now. Goodnight Nick finding themselves with a comfortable 1,500 gold lead, but maybe a little bit more telling is the 2,400 experience they find in their favor, reflected across the board and generally within the duo lane. I mean, we've talking about 1 level for the ADCs, 2 for the supports. Todi GR just now ticking over to level 8 to match up against Streak Up, and then take a peek at mid as well, man. Wolfie's level 10 to Sotos' 8. That is stifling.
Yeah, that's been important, because remember, early in this game, that's where Masskill put his pressure. You get first blood, and it's against Wolfie and makes life uncomfortable for Morgan Le Fay, who, you know, in the early game, we've talked about needing a little bit more time to dial up. And admittedly, probably a pretty good call here from Goodnight Nick. Toddy uses the boar here, and will grab some stunts on the back end, but are you going to win the duel? You'll at least get one, and there's a Scarab's Blessing on the other side as well. Can Emilzy wait this one out? The Abduct is right on through. The Scarab's Blessing is timed out, but Emilzy doesn't have the damage. It's a massive turnaround for Just F6. Toddy's got the double.
Man, Toddy gets actually saved by Kepri's passive there. Not often that actually comes into play, giving your allies a little bit of a health shield within an effective range, and that's just enough to make sure that Fafnir's
Kepri's
Dragon
so
Breath.
annoying, man.
Yeah, I hate that god, bro.
It's so annoying.
Gives you health shields, revives you, gives you damage mitigation, has 2 forms of hard CC. Yeah, no, Kepri's pretty good, and that's why we see him banned out so often.
Yeah, annoying equals good. You know, I got to make sure I clarify that. I think annoying in the sense that I don't want to play against it, and I want him on my team whenever possible, because it's moments like that where you can flip the game right on around, and that's important, Myth, because remember, there was a 2-level discrepancy in support, as we had talked about. That's down to 1. It was a 1-level difference for Toddy, who's now evened things up at level 9. And so that is a breath of fresh air for Just F6 on the left side of the map, and that'll make Gold Fury, things like that over here on left, invades, a little bit more realistic. Now that your duo lane isn't completely stifled. Could get worse for Streak up here. There's a rotation in for Mast Kill and Rotwin. Streak up will dash away, get rooted in place. No beads for 80 seconds and no chance to live. Toddy's on a killing spree. 3 kills in the last 30 seconds maybe, and this Artemis suddenly a massive threat.
Yeah, she's got so much damage already, going for that Icavale start immediately into what I can only assume is going to be a kin size up next, whereas Streakup is like to go for a little bit more team fight presence in his build. Odysseus' bow seems to be what he has his eyes on, so Streakup is essentially not allowed to take the 1v1. Not that that was 1. 3 versus 1. My man was being jumped inside the lane.
Yeah, and you know, you consider Izanami, you have the ability to disengage with the dash and the slight stealth on the end, but there was just no chance. Just F6 chose Streak Up to die, and Streak Up did. Could this be a solo kill in the mid lane? That is easy for Wolfie. Sotos, you might say he stuck around too long, but Sotos was just farming up, and Wolfie was able to call him on it. Gold Fury's now been started up. This is a man advantage for Goodnight Nick. Gold Fury's been reset, and the damage is massive. Wolfie with a double kill, 4-1 and 2 for the Morgan Le Fay out of mid. And if duo lane is suddenly even in your Goodnight Nick, you got to go where the advantage is, and that's mid, and Wolfie is taking this game over.
What a back and forth battle between these two teams right now. Just to recontextualize the last 10 minutes, especially around that duo lane, it was Goodnight Nick dominating for the first 4 or so minutes. Streak Up essentially set up his camp on the tier 1 tower line, and then eventually we see a comeback fight for Just F6 where Toddy GR picks up 3 kills in like a 40-second period, immediately towards the Gold Fury, and then throws that lead. He had that lead for like, what, a minute before he was able to find a death inside the Gold Fury pit, lose the neutral objective, and maybe the other one as well.
Well, Wolfie hasn't been able to go back yet. There's 2,500 gold in hand. Sotos rotates in from the mid lane, sends out his range damage with the Pyromancer. Wolfie looking for another 1v1 kill. Won't get it. Pyromancer goes down for Goodnight Nick. So now 2,700 gold in hand for Wolfie, who's not been able to finish up that soul gem yet. You're going to finish that one easily. And maybe get another tier 2 item on the other end. This mid laner is massive, Myth. The power curve of Morgan Le Fay in the late game is terrifying. And you're getting real close to it 11 minutes in here if you're Wolfie.
Yeah, I mean, Wolfie's been unchecked inside of this one. We haven't seen too many gank attempts. I think it was only 1 from Mast Kill so far, and was not too successful. 4-1 and 2 is the mid laner of Goodnight Nick. Wolfie just having a field day this time around. But some of the ripple effects on the map from those fights Just F6 were able to take are still here. It's a level lead for Toddy GR, who again has that 1v1 style of build. Still sitting on the balance blade, has not been able to upgrade that one just yet. But Goodnight Nick, Streak Up, still has to put some respect on this Artemis.
Man, Emilzi's in a great spot here. He's level 11, and both Sotos and Toddy are level 12, 2 levels behind his Rotwin. That level 9, Ice around the backside of this mid lane. Wondered if we'd see that Nike go in. More potential for tower dive with the Sentinel of Zeus. You get that nice big health shield. Top yourself off, make it a little bit more difficult to kill off, and then you have to wonder, Myth. I mean, every time you see a Nike in the game, your mind has to go to relics and actives. What do you choose at level 12? Does somebody pick up a Sunder here? No, Lystimix has got teleport and beads. Mass Kill is likely not going to go Sunder. It might be on Rotwin, but you probably want a lot of things if you're behind right now. Kepri support's going to want a lot of things there at level 12. Lots of options for the support as mid lane fighting starts off. Soto sends the Taiko drums Wolfie's way, and it's a perfect target to kill off. Maskill has got the Morgan Le Fay down early. Streak Up rotates on over from the duo lane, gets some damage onto Rotwin as Ice is here as well. There's the jump in. The Dark Portal will silence out Rotwin for a moment, but the Scarab's Blessing used. Sentinel of Zeus will give Ice a little bit of health on the back end of this fight, but Ice will end up going down to Toddy. The boar rips its way through, and Just F6 answer back with a big fight.
Good night, Nick. Get caught out in mid and try to very slowly retreat into the jungle, and Just F6 do not allow them to leave. The re-engage was a decision by the Order team, but it was a decision they made without their soul laner, Deathwalker, just now rejoining the rest of his squad on the left-hand side of the map. But luckily for Goodnight Nick, they had already cleared out every single neutral objective. The only thing they're losing off the tail end of that fight is some lives and a purple buff.
Ooh, a chance for a kill on a masked kill here, who will have to teleport on away. Streak Up was closing that gap and surely would have had enough damage if masked kill wasn't able to get out. Look, the target prioritization was great there for Just F6. Wolfie has been the problem. You kill off Wolfie early, and you're able to win the rest of the fight there. So now this game Myth brought largely back to even, though 1.5k gold lead for Just F6, or Goodnight Nick rather, still stands strong. So a bit of a stumble, but not enough to bring the game back to entirely even. Still this slight advantage for Goodnight Nick. And you feel like this game has to continue kind of revolving around this mid lane. The ability of Just F6 to get in and get a kill onto Wolfie might just kind of dictate how the rest of these fights go, especially now that Wolfie's got this Soul Reaver online. That is a massive power spike for the mid lane.
No, Soul Gem and Soul Reaver together all of a sudden makes Morgan Le Fay a potential one-shot character, right? Both of those items proccing is incredibly strong. You've got a great way to apply it from a range with the third ability. It's got some of the best range as far as mage abilities are concerned. And then once you're there, you get additional movement speed. Having used that, you can utilize that to walk up and slam them with Dragonflight, that which confirms your burst. It's just so much damage.
Hey, you want to prioritize Wolfie? Yeah, I think Just F6 want to do that. Wolfie uses the Aegis, will avoid a little bit of the damage from the Tycho drums, but still half HP. The Soul Gem will help heal up some of that damage should it connect. Masked Kill is around the backside here, but Ice kind of mirroring the Just F6 jungler. It will make it difficult for a sneaky engage to occur here. As Wolfie sends out a little bit of damage, try to top off that health bar. Ice leaps away from Listimics, who's rotated on in. Lord of the Afterlife used onto the Goodnight Nick jungler. Sentinel of Zeus buys some time, but time has run out. Just F6 get an opening kill, and it's masked kill yet again. This set, fully stacked Transcendence, Dominance into the tier 2 mace. Starting to be a little terrifying. Oni Fury is here, Myth, and it's started by Just F6.
And who wants to walk past Listimics? Barring Emilzy, I'm not sure many people can. This Osiris is a menace.
Fafnir steal. Nope, no steal, but a big dark portal from Streak Up on the fight back in. The boar is massive for Just F6. Toddy grabs some big stunts on the back line of this fight. Emilzy taken low. Sotos with another Tycho drums is going to send some damage Emilzy's way as Maskill finds the first. Maskill adds a second. Toddy's got another. Just F6 running away with the fight by the Fury.
3 dead now on the side of Goodnight Nick, and plenty of towers for Just F6 to go ahead and fall back towards if they so choose. Tier 1 and mid could be a foregone conclusion, maybe even Tier 1 and left if Maskill is feeling confident enough to stick around with 0 HP. Goodnight Nick inside of that fight essentially allow Just F6 to take the Gold Fury. It was just Fafnir attempting to steal, and afterwards that's where Goodnight Nick said, okay, they may have got the Gold Fury, but they're not going to walk away with their lives, all right? We're stepping in, and they get crushed for it. Just feels like had they decided to take that engagement a little bit sooner, they could have at least done it before the Gold Fury. You'd be fighting with an unofficial 6-man essentially, and you'd have better kind of zone to play around.
Man, this game plan for Just F6 is just revolved around killing Wolfie and then winning the fights afterwards. Wolfie was 4-1, now 4-3. He's died a couple of times before he's been able to find another kill in any of these fights. Still top of the player damage charts. But the mindset is very clear here for Just F6. And this set, Myth, I mean, it caught me off guard as far as picks and bans go. You know, you might expect it in our current 8.9 update, but in the 8.8 patch, you know, still a lot of the Osirises, the Erlang Shens, things like that. Still shows you there's some value in 8.8 on having one of these assassins on your team. And this, you know, this is a massive set. 5-1-3, 3-level lead over Ice, who's been ineffective on the Nike so far, and then the build that Maskill has already gotten between Transcendence, Dominance, and Brawler's Beatstick. I mean, there's a lot of damage, and it is hard to avoid if you're Goodnight Nick.
Yeah, gotta think if we were playing on 8.9, Just F6 would already be celebrating a victory, right? Considering how well this set has performed for them as of now, but we'll see what Just F6 is able to do with the lead that they've established. It's not too much. It's only about 1,300 or so gold in favor of the Chaos team, but it should be enough that they can feel confident at least stepping up to this Pyromancer, forcing Goodnight Nick to take the fight. Take a peek at the ADC, Toddy GR. He's over here, which means that it likely will be a fight here.
Yeah, goodness. Toddy's got 5 kills as well. This Artemis is hard to deal with. Goodnight Nick has got to prioritize these targets, and they've got to kill them quickly. Emilzy jumps in. Ice abducted on back, and that is a Nike. That gets melted that quickly. Mass kill dashes forward. Streak Up kiting away effectively. Wolfie putting some damage. Mustimic's his way as well. That's a great Lord of the Afterlife into the back line. Goodnight Nick scattering to the wind. Ice cannot participate in the rest of this fight. Good stun onto Mustimic's, but there's a Scarab's Blessing to keep the Osiris alive. Just F6 get the Pyromancer, and they'll get out.
Yeah, Just F6 were willing to let Lestemix die until that Pyromancer falls down, and then finally step up and try and help out their teammate. Goodnight Nick, still relatively healthy in the HP department, might be able to look a little bit further on the map, maybe a tier 1 tower in mid or towards the Fire Giant if they think enough members of Just F6 are headed back to base, but that's a risky call considering the vision dominance that Just F6 has on the map. Take a peek at the Fire Giant. What is that, like 6 wards all around the pit as opposed to the 2 from Goodnight Nick? They are losing out in the information war right now. Yep. Goodnight Nick, that is. They need to head back to base and start to pick up some of those wards.
Agreed. This is such an interesting build here, Myth, for Ice. You know, admittedly, when you see Nike, you imagine it's tank / bruiser. I mean, Blackthorn maybe leans itself into that conversation, but Brawler's Beatstick and Serrated Edge after that gives Ice a great opportunity to deal a lot of damage, but now in a few fights in a row, we've seen Ice either jump in or get engaged on. Not unlike this, and the health bar just evaporates. Ice is down to half HP yet again. It's made it difficult for this Nike to operate.
Yeah, just not a ton of survivability for Nike inside the build. Sure, you've got that secondary HP bar, but if you're always the one that's getting engaged on, that means you're always going to be the recipient of this Sunder from Rotwind, so your double HP bar essentially does not exist. So instead, what are you falling back on for your survivability? Just Blackthorn Hammer as of right now, which is nice. 400 HP infused into your health bar feels pretty good, but no defense as of yet.
Yeah, so we'll see if Ice changes things up a little bit later on. Shield, tier 1 picked up, and so that'll give a little survivability in the build as the rest of this game goes on. Gold Fury about to spawn up here, 20 minutes in. Just F6 sending a grouping on towards the left. Lestemix at 004, level 19 has been largely effective. Haven't seen much out of Deathwalker on the Sobek just yet, but sometimes all it takes is just that one pluck to turn the game around, and so Deathwalker has the opportunity to give his team a great chance at a win here. Sotos has to Thunder Crash away, a jump forward from Emilzy. Lots of damage coming out from Wolfie. A big Dark Portal will silence up a couple members of Just F6. Mass kill has to leave, and that's huge. Not having your set, not having the 5-1-3 killing machine in the fight. It's going to feel bad for Just F6. Big pluck back from Deathwalker, but Ice takes a lot of damage here. Sentinel of Zeus goes down. Lestemix slowed on through. Nice. Scarab's Blessing, inch perfect for Rotwind, and Just F6 live on.
That's just the annoying factor of the Khepri, right? You may have worked so hard, Goodnight Nick, to not only remove Mass Kill from the engagement, also isolating Lestemix, but you got to work a little bit harder than that. Scarab's Blessing is going to force you to do it yet again, and Goodnight Nick not up to the task, decide to disengage this time around, allowing Just F6 to head back to base, reset, and regroup.
Rotwind gets stunned here. Opportunity for a kill, but it's a Just F6 that find a kill, and it's Mass Kill with his 6th on the set. Streak Up starting to hit that big power spike here as the Rage is completed, grabs a stack here. Rotwind goes down, no Scarab's Blessing left in this fight. Streak Up looked at, Streak Up lives, but not for much longer. Sotos now in the Taiko drums will pour damage into the Goodnight Nick roster. Mass Kill having an incredible set here, 7, 1, and 4. And Just F6 better off for it. Their jungler swinging here in game 1, and Wolfie's an afterthought. It's only a matter of time, it felt like. Just F6 find the re-engage, and they get all but a deicide.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see Just F6 even go for the Gold Fury. I thought we'd see them just go ahead and gun it down straight towards the Fire Giant 23 minutes into this one, but instead, going to go ahead and take that slow play, win the team fight off the tail end of a reset. I mean, Mass Kill able not only to get out of the initial fight, go back to base, full heal, and then wrap all the way around through mid lane and then through the red buff of Goodnight Nick to find himself inside of their backline. It's just such a long fight. You got to think Goodnight Nick Should have probably reset at some point within that time, but instead stick around, lose the fight, and now put themselves in a position where they have to defend the Fire Giant.
Yep, Fire Giant's up here, and Fire Giant has started Deathwalkers around the back of Toddy, but he's alone. Deathwalker is all on his own right now as the rest of Goodnight Nick coming back from base. And this Sobek is just jumped on, unstoppable. His Maskill has got 7 kills in a row since the last time that he died. Fire Giant is at half HP, but Goodnight Nick fighting in at a 4v5 disadvantage. It's going to be difficult to fight into anyway, especially one man down. Fire Giant still low. Rotwin low, though, as well. Emilzy takes a whole lot of damage. It's a big dark portal, but it's not big enough. Streak Up's got 1, but it's 2 for the mid laner of Just F6. Toddy survives somehow. Wolfie rotates into this fight, delays the FG. It looks like Mifflin, that Goodnight Nick have done enough.
They've done enough to slow it down for now, but if Wolfie keeps playing aggressively like this, I'm not sure I love his odds in a true 1v1 up against Lestemics, as healthy as he is for now. But take a peek at the respawn timers. Soto still has 40 seconds, Rotwin has 20, so Goodnight Nick might have a slight advantage if they decide to try and regroup around that Fire Giant. About 5-second advantage on Sotos here. But instead, Just F6 with 3 members alive, and Tody GR being one of them might be able to just go ahead and pull this Fire Giant anyway.
Emilzy is wishing that that the shell still had the block stacks on it, because Maskill, his auto attacks have just been decimating these team fights, and if the auto attacks weren't enough, the abilities of this 8-1 and 7 set have just been tearing Goodnight Nick apart. If nothing else, though, the Fire Giant has been reset. We're starting to get to a point where gold and experience matter a little bit less. Gold's still pivotally important as the builds aren't completed, but XP still largely close. It's the 3-level gap in Jungle Myth that I think is the most impactful here. A 1-4-4 Nike that has just not been able to get that much impact in these fights versus Maskill and everything that he's done for the game. It feels like the jungle is kind of a difference maker, the biggest pivot point so far in Game 1.
No, this is Jungle Chasm, right? Ice went for a full damage build, essentially, and has not quite been able to apply it. 8,000 on the damage charts compared to the 15,000 of Maskill. This set is just
a little different.
more.
That's a little bit different, right? 15,000 compared to 8,000. Streak Up still at a good point, though. Maskill left running. And what good is a set if that set is dead? Fire Giant has been started, and it's actually very, very low here. Lestemics takes some damage on the back line of the fight. Tycho drums from Sotos. Rolls on through. Ice jumps in. Lestemics has found a kill on a Streak Up on the back of this fight. Sotos Thunder crashes away, but it's only as far as Ice, who has a great opportunity for some big kills. Look at the collapse in from Goodnight Nick, who already have 2, but Lestemics has 2 himself. A double kill for Ice. We've been hounding on this Nike so far this game, but Ice steps up when the time matters most. There is a collapse in here, though, from Maskill. Could you get a kill on a Deathwalker? Might be able to, but you're going to pay for it with your life. Wolfie turns eyes towards the set, who will dash on away.
Lestemics now just trying to hold his own within the towers. Maskill tries to re-sustain a little bit in the jungle. The skewer damage that you were talking about earlier, just that poke ability, is so strong. Slams Ice for 340 inside of that small little skirmish, and maybe if Ice decides to stick around much longer, could cost him his life. No Sentinel of Zeus means no safety net, but Maskill, well, he's just farming.
Yeah, Maskill doing just fine over here in the mid lane. This poor Fire Giant has been poked and prodded and damaged. Nobody's taken it down yet. It was damn near close just a moment ago. But the fighting was quick enough and good enough from Goodnight Nick. That is the first fight we've seen Goodnight Nick win in a little while, at least as far as numbers go. A 3-for-2 trade is ultimately how that one shakes out. And we finally got to see Ice have some impact on the fight. Once everything got used, Ice jumped in. It was able to finish off some of those kills. It really feels like Myth, and this is maybe no surprise, it revolves around Wolfie and his ability to stay alive and get damage in these fights. Soul Reaver into Obsidian Shard means that this Morgan Le Fay is going to absolutely be chunking health bars. But if Maskill is able to get in the back line, get an early kill onto the mid laner, it might not matter. And so that's got to be where Goodnight Nick turn their eyes.
Yeah, Just F6 have been doing a great job of utilizing Lestemics to dive this back line. And
Lestemics
I'd
as well.
argue Wolfie is the most important piece of Goodnight Nick's team fight, but if you got to keep one of your carries alive post-team fight, you probably want it to be Streak Up, so you can actually look towards these objectives. And Streak Up at 2-6-2 has been left alone in every single one of these fights. Goodnight Nick, seems like they've just forgotten about him.
Or they're giving love to Wolfie. Who knows? One or the other. One carry's looking like the redheaded stepchild here in this Goodnight Nick composition. We'll see if Streak Up is left alone to his own devices or is able stay alive throughout the rest of this fight. You sure don't have a Scarab's Blessing on your team. That's the case for Goodnight Nick. And just F6 and Rotwin specifically have been able to use that ultimate well. The aggression, though. It's Goodnight Nick driving the pace of this game. Massive damage from the backline. Scarab's Blessing onto Rotwin himself. Toddy and Sotos left alone in the back. Streak up full HP, has received some peel from the rest of his team. Maskill goes in. Dark Portal is out. Maskill finds the first onto Ice. Big pluck from Deathwalker, though. Get countered out. The Aegis from Maskill doing a lot of work here for just F6. And it's one pick for none as Ice falls for the 5th time.
Yeah, if Just F6 can somehow just fully reset back to base, they might as well let this tier 2 tower go down. They've got so much time to play with, but instead it's a Mulesy who falls for trying to get aggressive.
Wolfie with the range, though, trades one back. On to Rotwin. Streak Up is still full HP here. Goodnight Nick are going to knock down the tier 1 tower in mid and grab a kill onto Rotwin. So kill numbers-wise, that's a winning fight for Just F6. Map state-wise, though, Goodnight Nick able to find a little bit more. There is a Fury up and standing. With the one-man advantage for Just F6, that might be the next objective.
Look, Toddy GR is alive, Lestimics is alive, so just have this Osiris tank up an objective and have this Artemis shred it down should be the strategy. I'm surprised again to see Just F6 going for the Primal Fury. Sure, it'll make Fire Giant easier, but I think with the numbers advantage that you're playing with right now, or were playing with, you might have been able to just go to Fire.
Deathwalker walks in, Primal Fury low, and the Sobek gets a pluck onto Toddy. Wolfie's here at full HP. What can this Morgan Le Fay get done? Enough is the answer. Alongside Deathwalker, Lestimics knocked up, tossed back, Streak Up rotates into the fight. The shielding from Lestimics buys some time, but not enough. Wolfie is able to get the kill on the back end. Maskill now needs to wreak some havoc on these health bars, but it's only the Scarab's Blessing that separates Maskill from death.
That is such a massive throw, Dave. Soto says, look, I need this Primal Fury.
Exclamation point, Hail Mary.
I have to take it. And he doesn't reset. Legitimately, this Raijin lost like 80% of his HP bar to an NPC 30 minutes into a Smite game. That can't be allowed to happen. Deathwalker walks in alone and does that level of damage? I don't think so. And it's all for a paltry objective. It doesn't give you too much in the passive department.
Paltry?
I would say Pyromancer is worth more at this point in the game as Fire Giant post 30 minutes has become enhanced.
Yeah, this one's the enhanced Fire Giant for Goodnight Nick, and it is a 2-man advantage. Might be 3. Rotwin, zero chance. And the Morgan Le Fay on a rampage now. Maskill in behind might be the savior for this Just F6 team if you're able to find some damage onto Wolfie, onto Streak Up. Not sure that Goodnight Nick know exactly where he is. A ping rings out, though, so this set has been spotted. Fire Giant enhanced down low. Tycho drums out from Sotos, and the Fire Giant will be delayed now. No steal on the board for Just F6. A kill on the board, though, for Goodnight Nick, as well as the enhanced Fire Giant. You kill off Maskill, who's got a 1-minute death timer, and you got an enhanced Fire Giant on 5.
Emilzy now surging forward with the rest of this team at his heels. Might be able to isolate Sotos in the lane.
Sotos being run down by Emilzy, and Ice as well. Watch out, Deathwalker! He's in behind you, Just F6, and if you lose these 2 team members, you could be looking down the barrel of an 0-1 start to this set. No chance for Sotos as Streak Up will deal the killing blow. 3, 6, and 5. Not a great KDA, but it's enough to give Goodnight Nick an opportunity to knock down the Phoenix and knock down the Titan.
Maskill dead for 30, Sotos dead for 50, and Just F6 realize they are not in a position to defend these Phoenixes. Luckily for Just F6, they've done so well up until the last couple of minutes that they have a ton of towers still standing, giving their Titan a little bit more defense and HP. Goodnight Nick going to go ahead and work through all of those, and they're going to work through them fast.
Yeah, why not look to this next Phoenix? He still have an advantage for 30 seconds, and you're going to reset that timer a little bit further, or will you? Because the Scarab's Blessing is good. Wolfie sends some damage, Lestimics his way, but now there's no Scarab's Blessing in this team fight around the mid lane Phoenix. That does end up falling. Is it a retreat from Goodnight Nick, or are we re-engaging? Retreat is the answer. Now mid Phoenix falls, and we can look towards left.
Goodnight Nick playing with so much time left on this Fire Giant as well. We're talking minutes. They can go ahead and reset, regroup, go for the Primal Fury that seems to be a little bit more valuable than I'm giving it credit for. Clearly, Just F6 put themselves in a position with 2 Phoenixes down for an attempt at it this time around, and Goodnight Nick will be headed back towards base, and they've got plenty of gold in pocket. 3,200 for Wolfie, sitting at the top of the chart right now. He's going to purchase an entire item, a massive power spike. Ethereal Staff actually going to be the selection. Not only is it good damage, a little bit more burst potential, but also great survivability inside of the team fight. Just F6, it's an uphill battle from here, man. This is almost a 99%er.
Yeah, we're getting close to it, and this, I mean, that's got to be so disheartening. Just F6 have I mean, look at the gold charts from 16 to 33 minutes. Just F6. The real important, the meat and potatoes of this game, Just F6 were in charge. They were in the lead of everything. And Goodnight Nick were patient enough and able to find that advantage around the Fury, take the enhanced Fire Giant, and they've been so efficient, Goodnight Nick have, with this Fire Giant. You take down the right side Phoenix immediately, mid lane Phoenix shortly after. Now you've got still a little bit of time to look at this left Phoenix, if you even need that amount of time. If you find a kill here and you're able to steamroll it, you could start yourself off with a 1-0 win. Hasn't been easy for Goodnight Nick, but they're in the driver's seat, and that's for sure. One more engage, one more chance, one more opportunity for Just F6 to delay this game, get us sent back to another enhanced Fire Giant, but it's going to be Sotos who's jumped on here. He'll have to Thunder Crash away, uses the beads. Listimics takes some damage, and he takes a lot of it from Wolfie and Streak Up. Ice abducted on back. Tycho drums around. Ice. He'll live, but it's a massive engage from the rest of Goodnight Nick. Streak Up's found the first on Rotwin.
Masskill now trying to finish off what he couldn't finish earlier. Ice, though, is just guiding you into the jungle, and now Masskill finds yourself isolated. Goodnight Nick, well, they're ever the opportunists. They don't chase out this kill, and instead, they're keeping their eyes on the biggest prize, the Titan.
Toddy has jumped on here. Listimics stunned on through. Look at Wolfie, look at the positioning, look at Streak Up, and look at the pluck. Deathwalker sends Listimics to the grave alongside Wolfie, who is now unstoppable. Titan falls in game one, and what a turnaround it was from Goodnight Nick.
All for a Primal Fury, Dave. Every single bit of that, every single bit that Goodnight Nick got post like 20 minutes was off the back of one poor objective call from Just F6. It's the concern I brought up initially when we were hyping up this set.
Yeah.
Just F6 occasionally, just in the late game, makes some questionable calls that cost them massive leads.
Is that an exclamation point Hail Mary in your eyes, Miff?
Yeah, 100%. Go ahead and get that spam rolling, chat.
Yeah, exclamation point Hail Mary in the chat, according to Mifflin here. Goodnight Nick, they turn things around in game one, and they grab a win despite the set on the other team being absolutely massive. Great start to an exciting set. Goodnight Nick up 1-0. Will they close it out 2-0? We'll stick around and find out.
What did it win?
You win the respect.
You're telling me an alien wore this?
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, that was a good cut.
Messaging him to mute.
The best graphics you really need, ultra, of course, and I can probably watch a stream on the side.
Content's gonna look good.
Pretty good, pretty good.
If you somehow don't get enough of us on a regular basis, and believe me, I know that's difficult to do, there's never enough Dolson and Mifflin content to go around, you can go online and catch some extra at youtube.com/SmitePro. We've got a whole lot of fun stuff there in all reality. You got interviews, player things, 1v1s, whole lot of fun to be had over at youtube.com/SmitePro. Replace the Pro with VOD if you want to catch our old games, and you got a whole slew of Smite Pro action to be found over on YouTube. Camera face brings us into the desk.
That's not going to catch on. All right, chat, here's the thing. You guys can go ahead and vote on it, and we'll check in a little bit
This
later.
camera right here, the
I'm gonna
crane
put
camera.
googly eyes on our crane camera, and we're going to name it. And Dave has voted Camera face?
Yes.
That's awful. I think Cameron wouldn't be bad, or like
Can't be a real name.
Camaro, Cam Arrow.
Or Camera face. Thank you very much. Camera face on Mifflin and I to talk about game number 1 between Just F6 and Goodnight Nick. And Miff, this is a game where Just F6 probably feel like they should have won.
I feel like they should have won.
This is a 1-6 team that has had struggles. And it's things like that, right, that have made this team 1-6. You play great. You've talked about the individual good performances that Just F6 have had as a team. Actually, you kind of called it perfectly in the pregame. There's macro game issues or decision-making issues that end up leading to tough sledding down the road here. Wolfie just felt unstoppable here this game, regardless
of
decisions. Yeah, that was earlier on in the game. This is the one, Miff, where you feel like this game was lost.
Yeah, you could have just gone to Fire Giant. You could have just waited for one of your tanks to show up. You could have taken a 5 versus 4 because I believe it was Ice who had just respawned at the beginning of that clip. But instead, you went to Primal Fury and lost 80% of your HP bar. I'm going to say it again, to an NPC.
Miff, you sound tilted.
I am. If that happens to me in ranked, man, I don't know if our mics will pick this up, but this is going to be me the whole time. If that's my rank game.
Right, it's immediately typing in chat is what Mifflin is doing there. He immediately goes down to chat. Just F6, look, incredible game for Mastikill, let's be honest. Second SCC set, you came off a good debut performance. Now you're back in this game, 9-2-10 on the set. Unfortunately, those 2 deaths came at a point where the death timer was long enough to keep you out of the fight. I mean, the story of this game has to be Wolfie and his ability to be impactful throughout the game despite being dove on by Just F6. And Streak Up as well. Look, the KDA for Streak Up was not pretty. But by the time the late game was reached, Goodnight Nick were at a spot where it didn't really matter. It was a full build Izanami, 30 minutes into the game, and you're going to do well regardless of what your early game KDA is.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of games like that in the European SCC because they do generally tend to go a little bit longer than what we're used to seeing in the SPL.
This game, though.
It was very scrappy in the early game, but it wasn't scraps around neutral objectives. It was mainly we found a couple kills in mid, or we found a pick inside the dual lane, reset, finds a farm, maybe a red buff invade. This time around, though, there was a period post 25 minutes where things kind of ceased happening for about 6 or 7 minutes, and that allowed Goodnight Nick to find opportunities to try and fight in again despite being at such a large deficit for the majority of the game.
Yes, feels like a must-win set for Goodnight Nick. You give yourself a great advantage to get towards the top of the standings. 1 win away from taking the set here over Just F6. Goodnight Nick still in that first pick slot. And Morgan Le Fay, as mentioned, in such an interesting kind of pivot point, some teams seem to really like this pick, some not prioritizing it as highly. If Wolfie is going to be able to play the same way that he did in Game 1, you might be considering giving this pick right on back to him. But Just F6, of course, have the opportunity to ban it away should they want. Soul plus Odin continue to get banned out here. Ardio's got to be close to 100% ban rate here, I feel like, Miff, over the last few weeks. And this is the total non-discussion for this specific set. I wonder if when we get up to 8.9 in the SCC and moving forward in the SPL, so next week and moving forward even today in the SPL, if Uller starts to challenge for 100% pick ban, because that god is gross right now.
Yeah, Uhl is incredibly strong. That Mace Tree really pushed him above and beyond.
I mean, Zapman was playing.
He was
I mean,
one-shotting.
It was nuts.
Well, it was like 4-shotting, but they were stunned, so I'm going to call that a one-shot.
Right, and I'll still defend you on this. When we say one shot, it's like an instant
It's
burst.
a concept, not a hard definition,
Right.
right? They're not literally just hitting you once, but
your health bar
essentially-
in one
Fell
one
swoop.
big swing gets taken down. At any rate, we'll see if in 8.9 the SCC starts to latch onto this. Ooh, I imagine they will. For now, though, the Hunters remain as they were when the bow tree was great. Still pretty good, but great is what we're playing on here in 8.8. Izanami and Mulan for Good
Wow.
Night Nick. Now, Mulan is something that Deathwalker has played in the past. Remember that
Sure
Just
is.
F6 banned out Mulan in game number 1, largely because Deathwalker is on the other team. And so you get Izanami, Mulan, and Fenrir. You've got some good aggression here if you're Good Night Nick.
You know, I actually follow Deathwalker on Twitter, and he can be quoted as saying, Mulan's like not that good, but I played it anyway. So normally when I see unorthodox picks, I like to defend them, right? Like we gotta bring the merits of
Defend
these picks.
this one, Myth.
But I cannot because the player piloting it did not. So Deathwalker's just playing Mulan because he likes Mulan.
Mulan is fun to play.
Super fun,
A lot of fun to play.
ton of fun.
Maybe just easy to punish. You know, the
not very good.
self-root is kind of an issue that we've discussed a few times, but it's something that Deathwalker has played and Deathwalker
It has
has
bully
made work.
potential in the lane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the defense. So here's the thing about
I
Mulan.
baited you into it.
She actually does have a phenomenal laning phase. Levels like 1 through 6, you can dominate, and if you pull a lead, it is so hard to wrench it back from Mulan's control because of the sustain she has built into her kit, because of the damage output that she has inside the early. Legitimately, you can itemize towards full defense in the early game and still match some of the offensive power of these meta soul laners. It's more so an issue of what is the power curve of soul lane. It's only really reflected once you rotate out. When are you rotating out? Generally after that second relic comes online, so levels 12 through 16 might mark your first rotation on the soul lane, and generally by that point, Mulan's kind of fallen off compared to the majority of the other meta picks.
I'm just excited to see what Deathwalker is able to make work here on this pick, because it feels like so often, you know, one arrow stun and the fight kind of feels like it's over if you're able to grab a pick quickly enough on whoever it is that you end up stunning out. So Ganesh plus Agni, final 2 picks here for Good Night Nick. This is a very Good Night Nick draft. You know, if you know you're watching the SCC and you cover up both of the team names up top, and I see Iza, Mulan, Fenrir, Ganesh, and Agni.
Oh, that's Good Night Nick.
That's Good Night Nick for sure. And
yeah.
you know, you didn't even have to know that. You didn't
I
even know.
covered it up, bro.
Or
I
you
had no
covered it up
clue.
and you knew it. On the other side, though, Myth, you'd think we might be an 8.9 with this Daji pick coming out. And so it's going to be Osiris back in the soul lane. Listimix actually had a pretty good game, admittedly, on the Osiris.
Agreed.
But the Daji here could be the pivot point as far as game number 2 is concerned between Just F6 and Good Night Nick.
Yeah, I think so, man. Great CC lockdown, but we'll have a better look at it once we jump straight into the game here. Daji, though, is a pick, especially on 8.8, where you have to keep your eyes on it. She's not exactly the meta right now. Sure, the shell nerf that I think we saw in like 8.4, I don't know why I'm calling out numbers, that we saw earlier this year has made Daji a little bit stronger. She's a lot more easy to apply that damage on. You can utilize Blink if you so choose in that second relic slot and just go into the Blink, auto attack, pop the 1, auto attack again. You've got that great immediate burst of damage and then great survivability posts. But if you fall behind on Daji, if you don't have other gods on your team that can burn beads or at least make use of the beads that you've burned, this god can generally struggle. I'd argue Just F6 do have a good composition built around this Daji. Artemis's Caledonian Boar is high kill potential in her own right, just on her own, as well as Isotos.
I love Sotos in the Fire Sand just burns Wolfie away as Wolfie steps forward to knock down those last couple of minions. This will be a fun mid lane matchup to watch. I mean, it was high impact last game. Sotos on the Raijin, Wolfie, of course, on the Morgan Le Fay, who had a fantastic game. This is very Wolfie-esque with the Agni. You know, not many players playing Agni right now out of mid, but no surprise that Wolfie picks this one out. You got some long-range confirmable damage, some good setup CC there as well. And so my expectations, Myth, I think pretty high here for Good Night Nick, and specifically their mid laner.
Yeah, Wolfie is going to take a little while before he hits his pace, and we'll get a good look at what Deathwalker is able to do inside of this lane.
That's what I'm
that
talking
early
about. That's what I'm
bully
talking about.
potential. Listimix barely makes it out, maybe like 10 HP separating him and the Shadow Realm from each other. And that's exactly it. Mulan is very good at this phase of the game.
It's the stun 1-2 combo. I mean, it's nuts. It feels so good when you're there in that lane, and you have to respect it. Listimix has got to play back now. When you're that low HP and you know how much damage Deathwalker can do, kind of in one swoop, it is brutal now to lane up against that. The health chalice will be popped and used. Keep Listimix in the fight. Ice is going to put some pressure on the Masked Kill here, as the Fenrir out of the jungle makes another performance here, another debut. You can only make one debut, so I don't know why that's the word I choose. Another
appearance.
Appearance. That's it. That's the word I'm looking for.
Glad to help.
Another appearance. Appreciate you there, Miff. And so Ice, has got some great targets here this game. The Palaos largely cancel out that ultimate. That's something that Mask Kill will be able to go up into. But between the rest, once those beads are down, lots of good targets here for Ice.
Yeah, if he's able to hit Listemix before he's able to channel Lord of the Afterlife, or Sodos is going to be forced to use beads every single time, so Ice is in a position where Ragnarok could be a difference maker inside of this one. Tries to invade the red buff, unsuccessful this time around, I believe, or maybe no, it does go the way of Goodnight Nick. So good play from the Fenrir to strip this one away, and Goodnight Nick establishing pressure elsewhere on the map as well.
Yeah, we keep seeing this.
Stripping the purple.
We keep seeing this. At least in game one, it was dual lane pressure for Goodnight Nick for a little while there, and Just F6 kind of had to stand by until they got some help. Though Just F6 did turn around a couple of kills, gave Toddy a good chance at a good performance on the Artemis. Did end up looking good down the stretch in game number one. And so Toddy need to go big here to give his team a chance in game number two. Rotwin on the Fafnir this time. Emilzy, you hit that stun, you probably got a kill. At least you get the beads of Toddy, but the stun just wide, and that means Emilzy takes some big damage on the back end. But still looking better after that trade or streak up in Emilzy.
Yeah, Emilzy's also got a health potion to fall back on, so he can just stick around inside of this fight for as long as he wants, essentially. This has been great pressure from Goodnight Nick, but that's what they drafted for. When you got Izanami on your side, duo lane, at least for the first 6 or 7 levels, is going to be pretty free coasting.
Deathwalker considering a stun onto Listemix because Ice has rotated over to this side of the map. But instead, Listemix will stay alive. So it's really kind of a pivot point, Miff, isn't it, when rotation time comes around, and that's when Deathwalker will make an impact on the fights rather than being a lane bully. But there's a pretty wide gap here in the duo lane. 2-level lead for Streak Up and Emilzy over Rotwin. But Rotwin's got a hammer, and that's all he needs. He gets the stun onto Streak Up, takes over to level 4. And no more fighting to be had here. I'm excited to see Ganesh. I love this pick, personally. And also think that it's pretty good, Miff. What do you think? You're not allowed to say anything bad. You can only heap praise on Emilzy here on this Ganesh.
So, story time for those of you in the chat right now. Dave has participated in a couple of playtests here at hi-rez and actually legitimately had his Ganesh passively banned. He was that good at playing the pick that we didn't have to dedicate a ban in the draft phase. We just said you're not allowed to play it anymore. It's just not fair.
I appreciate it.
So, yeah, Ganesh,
I appreciate the revisionist history and and you letting me know that's the way things went. Deathwalker being run down by Listimix. We haven't seen this in a little while. It's largely been Deathwalker controlling this lane. But we've reached level 7, and so maybe Listimix feeling a little bit better on this Osiris. Jokes aside, though, I think this Ganesh is going to be a big pivot point, a big impact point for this Goodnight Nick team. Emilzy, clearly carries a lot of weight for this squad. And I think Dharmic Pillars is incredible. You drop that down in a team fight, whether you're corralling people or chunking down some of that health. I think a great chance for Emilzy. Hell, you can even pair with Wolfie and some of that long-range damage. This team fight is looking pretty scary for Goodnight Nick. But Just F6, they have a team fight that is nothing to scoff at either.
Dave, I got a little bit of trivia for you. Do you know what the highest damage ability in the game is? The highest individual damage ability.
It's got to be like I'm a Monster, Searing Pain.
I mean, it's not that it's all in one burst. It can be dispersed over
I
a
imagine
channel.
you're going to tell me it's Dharmic Pillars.
It is Dharmic Pillars. Dharmic Pillars hits harder than anything else.
If you get hit with every tick of Dharmic Pillars, it does
the most damage.
The most damage in the game?
That's right. If you're full damage Ganesh, you can shred just about
anybody. All right, so you keep adding qualifiers to this.
Well, yeah, well, duh.
So if you get hit with every tick and your full damage, it does the most damage in the game.
That's right.
I think you have to put it in context of a realistic Smite game.
You're not hitting all your pillar shots?
I'm also not full damage Ganesh ever.
Well, I guess you're just trolling then, because you're not making use of the
You
highest
just
DPS
told
ability.
chat that it's banned against me in playtests. So you know what? I'm never trolling.
Okay.
I don't troll once, not ever. Wolfie will send some damage. Sodos his way, 1 level lead. There in the mid lane, continued 2 level lead, at least over Rotwin here in the duo lane, 1 level over Toddy. Purple buff respawning soon. Palau used by Maskill, who will jump away. And the looming pressure from Goodnight Nick starting to boil over. A couple of buffs right before the engage here on the left side of the map. Streak Up looking for the 1v1. First blood, yeah, baby. Streak Up gets it, and Goodnight Nick strike first.
They strike first, and they don't stop now, trying to chase
That's a
out
lot
yet
of damage.
another kill. Sodos in some trouble.
That might be the most damage I've seen in the game. Ice Ice pulls Sodos right back into the fight, and Ice Ice grabs the second kill of the game for Goodnight Nick. Sodos goes down, and Merlin unfortunately takes a tumble. No beads now for the mid laner, and Goodnight Nick off to a great start.
Dave, the second highest damage ability, I believe, is Death Gaze from Anubis, which is another channeled ability that you have to build full damage for. So you know what? I think it's fair to say that Dharmic Pillars is the
Yeah,
highest
you're right.
DPS.
I know, I'm just saying you have to be realistic.
I'm being realistic.
Nobody's going to build full damage Ganesh.
Well, I guess I'm nobody.
You finally come to that realization, Pip.
God bless. Come on.
Did you hear that slight pause? I considered what direction I should take that.
You looked up at me, and I saw a twinkle in your eye.
I
That's
did.
awful.
Goodnight Nick have started this game off so well here, Miff. Ice Ice off to a good start. You get a couple of assists for Wolfie and Emilzy, and then 1 kill for Streak Up on the solo kill. Feels like the left side of the map now, a bit of a no-play zone. Toddy, and again, the fact that it's a solo kill is important, because that really shows you the power curve now of Streak Up in this 1v1 matchup. You've got the Ikavale and a couple tiers of the Oboe before Toddy's going to be able to head on back to base. So Streak Up can really start to control the left side of this map, but it's not like the rest of the map feels great for Just F6 right now. It's an interesting build path, Myth. If you're kind of looking at the builds there on the right side of the screen, at least, Sodos has gone into the Pythags piece. Rotwin will jump away. He'll be just fine. Have seen it in the past, Pythags piece, but admittedly not something I'm used to seeing all that often.
Yeah, it looks to me like Sodos is just going for a straight-up lifesteal build. Wouldn't be surprised if that's a Typhon's Fang in the second slot. And he's lucky that Aggro isn't in my chair right now, or Aggro might have some few choice words for Sodos in his build allocation here. It's a little bit unorthodox, but lifesteal is pretty nice, gives your team a little bit of aura, so it can work out, but it has not as of yet. 1 level lead for Wolfie in mid, and that's reflected elsewhere on the map. 1 level in ADC, 2 inside of support, and Goodnight Nick are making use of that no-play zone that you highlighted. They're just doing no wrong on the left-hand side, stripping a purple and now a Gold Fury, and there's that highest DPS coming into play.
And look, he's hitting every... Oh, no, they pulled it off
How
of
do you
the
mess that up?
Dharmic Pillars there. So go pretty low. Toddy will steal it away. No! Oh, no! Something about the Furies here in this set, there's just nothing promised. Goodnight Nick pull it, do 99% of the damage, and will not secure it. Luckily, the gold lead was huge, and so the slight downtick only makes it a 2,000 gold lead instead of what was closing in on about 3,000. So a great play there from Toddy to keep this game interesting, as Goodnight Nick has started to control things early. An attempted blue buff invade, no good. Masterkiller goes down, engage from Deathwalker onto the Daji. This is a lot of damage from the Mulan. Palau up, Deathwalker pulled in, Masterkill running away. Will Ice Ice find the engage onto the backline? No, he won't. Instead, he's going to try to help out his solo laner. Rotwin uses the beads after being pulled in, but the re-engage from Deathwalker has locked Rotwin in place, and finally the Mulan strikes pay dirt. Goodnight Nick winning all over the map.
Maskill has not yet made his way back to base, so I guess this gives us a moment to reevaluate that Gold Fury pool. And Dave, I know I was having a little bit of fun talking about the Dharmic Pillar and how it does the most damage in the game, because it does, but legitimately,
Right, it's
had they
rooted in
just left
seriousness.
it,
Yeah.
had they just left it inside of the Dharmic Pillar, this doesn't happen. My man, this was so casual. He
Boop.
just walks up and took it. What?
Myth, I feel your tilt through the cast.
Through my furrowed brow and my
Right.
downturned smile.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not on camera camera face right now, because you'd see Myth and his furrowed brow here on the desk. Unfortunate now, a couple of times in this set. And, you know, it's far from a complete throw.
No, they're
Right?
fine.
I mean, totally fine. Goodnight Nick still controlling this game, but it would have been a lot worse. And this is the old no-play zone. Streak Up uses the beads, runs down Toddy. Can Maskill win this fight? Yes is the answer. It took a lot. Raised some eyebrows And finally, Just F6 have hit a kill on the board, and it's getting a kill on the streak up. Very important to keep that XP off the map for a little bit.
Toddy GR hits a pretty nice power spike, having head back to base inside of a body bag, picks himself up, and Aussie this time around, so maybe it'll be a little bit easier for him to dig in his heels and take the fight last time. What?
I've got an Aussie.
Like you've bought that item?
Oh, an Australian Shepherd.
So, anyway, Streak Up does fall, sticking around inside of that fight a little bit too long, but Odysseus' bow already finished, so he's strong in a team fight.
Red buff scrap here. We haven't seen much out of Wolfie yet. That one assist. We don't know what the power spike is looking like yet from this Agni out of the mid lane. Dharmic Pillars kind of separates this fight on out, but Emilzy gets stunned through. Palau pulls in two. A fight back in from Just F6, and at the forefront of it all is this Daji, and Mass Kill specifically. Feeling good. Double kill for the Daji. 3 kills on the board for Just F6. All of them in the jungle.
Lestemics now trying to isolate Wolfie in mid. Dash stun should secure his life this time around, but with 2 dead on the side of Goodnight Nick for about 10 seconds left on Emilzy. Maybe Just F6 can try and pick themselves up another neutral objective, or maybe Deathwalker if he sticks around a little bit too long. Lestemics turning the corner soon, and Deathwalker wants to fight.
Yeah, but Deathwalker does so much damage. I don't want to fight Deathwalker. He's 2 levels ahead of Listimics. I guess in a 2v1, you're probably feeling okay. But given the chance, Deathwalker's just going to do this. He's going to turn around and kill on you. Yeah, I'll trade out his life. But he's gotten a kill, and you spent the time of 2 to walk down Deathwalker. And that's the power of the Mulan myth, the ability to turn around scraps like that. So Deathwalker in a pretty good spot here in Game 2.
Yeah, has elected to pick up the Purification Beads in his second relic slot. Maybe just wants to be able to dive and not worry about the CC core of Just F6, but is going to be sacrificing a little bit of that team style of play. You can't go towards maybe a horrific or even a shell. Sometimes we'll see Blink there, but instead, well, maybe we just see Toddy GR fall down. Emilzy tries to use his ultimate to slow him down, but Vengeful Assault, now having slow immunity on it, allows Artemis to leave, but also decides to use the beat, so loses out on that defensive relic.
Yeah, I'm looking at Streak Up here in about 15 seconds. Once those beads are back for Goodnight Nick, oh my goodness, this is what a treat. I don't often break this hard myth, but there are googly eyes being put on camera face right in front of us right now, and that's
wow. I don't know if there's any way
Mike
for us
is
to
the
share
truth,
that.
man. Mike
is there?
We did a Twitch chat poll.
Okay. Production is legitimately telling me to look at Discord.
Oh, we named the camera. Camera face got 10 votes? It only got 10 votes? Are you kidding me?
It's Pyromancer's going down.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you're right. I got to focus on this. Pyromancer goes down. Goodnight Nick make no mistake around the objective this time. And are able to grab it. Maskill continues to run things here in this game. I mean, what a pickup, Myth. I mean, this is the super sub of a lifetime for this team. Just F6 add Maskill into the jungle. And the guy is looking like a transcendent talent over the last couple of games. Incredible game 1 despite the loss. Now looking good in game 2. A chance for a kill onto Wolfie, who will use the beads and walk on out. But my goodness, this Daji, I mean, I guess it's a stacked Transcendence plus a Hydra's Lament. But Just F6 now in a power spot. And if they might not have to steal away this Primal Fury because it started up. It's getting low. There is a rotation in from Goodnight Nick, but not in time. And Just F6 have grabbed I knew he said pyro. They grabbed the primal. It's the word I'm looking for.
And now the gold has equalized a little bit more so at the 15-minute mark. Now only looking at about 2,600 in favor of Goodnight Nick. Seems like they've been nursing around a 3,000 gold lead for about the last 10 minutes inside of this one. And despite losing out on the engagement and the objective, they're not slowing down. That's a tier 2 tower dive.
Dharmic Pillars ticks for a slow and ticks for some damage. Deathwalker nabs this one. Listemics gets stunned on through here as well. A tether is out onto Emilzy, who will take the stun, but the tier 1 tower falls down shortly. Sotos gone for 30 seconds. Goodnight Nick strong enough to walk things down here in the mid lane. And so, you kind of get the sways of momentum. Just F6 group up, they nearly get a kill, they grab themselves the Primal Fury. But as we saw in game 1, it really just takes Goodnight Nick grouping up and making a concerted effort to get the kills. And they're able to get a kill, plus a tier 1 tower here, wrangle that gold lead right back to about 4K.
And now where are they going to head, though? There's not much left on the map to push. Generally, tier 1 tower in mid is where you elect to head when both neutral objectives have fallen, but they've already stripped that one. Maybe tier 1 on left could be a point of contention for Goodnight Nick to kind of focus their efforts, but considering it's only a stiff breeze from falling over, I'm sure Goodnight Nick don't want to allocate too many resources to that side of the map. So we might just see this game fizzle for a couple of moments here until either the Fury or the Pyromancer respawns. After that, all holds are off, man. I mean, these guys are going to be scrapping for it consistently. And despite being down about 4,000 gold, doesn't feel like Just F6 is shying away from fights. Goodnight Nick may have just lost an engagement, but then they respawn and immediately barrel down the tier 1 mid tower. It just feels like both of these squads are two unstoppable forces, and nobody's playing the what's the other one for that idiom?
Movable object.
Movable. Thank you. Yeah, that.
Movable object.
And neither one's that. They're both unstoppable.
They're both unstoppable forces right now. I don't know. Deathwalker feels kind of immovable right now. 3-level lead over Listimics. This Mulan is officially hard to deal with, to say the absolute least.
Officially hard to deal with.
Officially.
We put that title.
Yeah, right. That's a title in game. Hard to deal with for Deathwalker here. 3 levels up. Listimics, you think he's worried about crit. We've gone Spectral Armor rather early on in the build here. Streak Up, no stacks on the Rage just yet. But we know what this Izanami can do once Streak Up gets the ball rolling here. Toddy's done a good job, admittedly, of staying alive, because Streak Up was looking for a lot of those 1v1s earlier in the lane. One of them successful, another one you get the kill, but then you get traded out by mass kill. That's a lot of crits for a no stack Rage. I guess you have the Wind Demon in there as well. But now all eyes, I think, of course, Deathwalkers I've mentioned officially hard to deal with, but Streak Up's kind of hitting that point that he did in game 1 with Izanami a bit further on in the build, and the team fights might be looking good for Goodnight Nick if they're able to enable Streak Up and Wolfie as well, who we haven't seen much from yet.
Yeah, just give them a couple of moments to start farming themselves up and getting ready for these team fights, and I'm sure they'll make their names known in due time. Pyromancer about 1 minute away from respawning.
Is Agni good?
Is Agni good? Like, full stop, is Agni good?
Yeah.
Agni's okay. I would say that Agni is very okay. He does decent damage. His
It's officially okay.
Yeah, his ultimate doesn't cost mana. You've got a good range stun, but
it gets a Wolfie buff, right? I think Wolfie's very
Wolfie loves that pick.
Wolfie is so good at this pick.
For
I
like a
think
decade.
It's a little bit of a Wolfie buff here. Can Streak Up turn around the damage? We'll use the beads and the Aegis on the other end. Toddy walks forward. No! So close. Toddy nearly gets this 2v1 turned around. Will they be able to channel the backs in time?
Fumes.
Wolfie, no good. Mass kill. We'll head back to base as well. Unfortunate for Streak Up there. It took a lot, though. And that's why I say Streak Up's now at this power point where you turn around that much damage on a mass kill and Toddy in a 2v1 in a team fight. It feels like this Izanami could just go wild when the rest of Goodnight Nick is there, when Deathwalker, who's officially hard to deal with, is there as well. Goodnight Nick are in a great spot. The Fury about to respawn in just under a minute's time, and that's maybe when we see the next big grouping. Ice jumps in, Sodos has to use the beads and the flicker away. And we've seen this play a few times. It's pulled back in as Sodos, and Ice nabs his second kill of the game.
That might be the textbook definition of panic beads. My man got hit by Unchained, Fenrir's Leap. It wasn't a stun. He late beads it as if it were a stun, and then gets slammed by Ragnarok after flickering away. It just feels like, had he held on to that relic, he might have held on to his life at least a little bit longer, but instead, Goodnight Nick, now with the power play, Soto's dead for 20 seconds, can head over towards the Pyromancer, clear that one out pretty expeditiously, and the rest of Just F6 only get to watch on in horror as it falls down.
I feel like I might be the poster child for panic beads. If you're looking in the dictionary and
I wouldn't know, you won't play Smite with me.
Myth, your MMR is so much higher than mine.
Say it again.
Myth, my MMR is so much higher than yours. Goodnight Nick are going to group up here around this Oni Fury. Still in a power position here in this game. Despite one kill here and there going over to Just F6, it's largely been pressure on to Streak Up. But Goodnight Nick absolutely still in control of this game. We might see a good old-fashioned 5v5 here. We haven't seen one of those yet this game. Deathwalker stun in onto Rotwin, who can't speak. The transformation on the back end right into the Dharmic Pillars, and Wolfie gets gifted the kill. Ice. A great Ragnarok pulls Sodos into his death yet again. The beads were still on cooldown. Big fight from Goodnight Nick. They'll grab 3. The only reason they didn't get 5 is the other 2 running scared.
Yeah, Maskill tried to do his best anime protagonist impression there as 2 of his friends fall down. Wants to fight for their dignity and honor.
This is not an anime.
Post and, well, it is not an anime, and he loses his life in a quick fashion now. Daji dead for 40 seconds, Soto for 20, and Rotwin for 10. Goodnight Nick has 5 members reset, barring Ice Ice, who decides to stay out in the field. Go ahead, get their HP, their mana back, spend up all that gold they got from the Fury and a 1-team fight, and now start barreling down the Fire Giant.
Yeah, why not take the FG here? Deathwalker big in that fight. 4-1-2 on the Mulan. Hey, for a character that's not that good, Deathwalker makes Mulan look great. And I say not that good, according to Deathwalker, by his own admission. There's a stun on the Listimics, who will send the tether on out towards Goodnight Nick, and the damage connecting onto Listimics or the Afterlife used defensively. Fire Giant reset. A little tick of the health bar. Still down. But 99% reset. Rotwin rotates in behind the FG pit here. Deathwalker's playing Separator. It's going to be a quiet FG. You know, no surprise here. No steal potential on the board for just F6.
No, none whatsoever, and it seems like they realize it as well. Scattering to the wind, just trying to find some farm to set themselves up for defensive positioning, but it seems like that may have taken a little bit too long. Goodnight Nick, grouped up as 5 on the right-hand side, can go ahead and push down this tier 2 tower in the solo, and with an enhanced Oni minion wave at their beck and call, gotta think this Phoenix might be under threat as well.
Deathwalker is just having a game. He is just walking down anyone on just F6 that
He's walking
pleases.
down with death.
Watch out, there's a rotation in
Deathwalker?
from me. I'm moving over that because it was horrible. Just kidding, it was pretty good. Proud of you, Myth. Up in the powwow is Mass Kill. One chain connects on a streak up, but a big Dharmic Pillars from Emilzy forces just F6 back. Rotwin pulled back into the waiting arms of Goodnight Nick, who get their first kill here. They might get another on the Listimics. It's going to be a Phoenix. Could be worse for Goodnight Nick, or for just F6, if Goodnight Nick are able to keep pushing things down here. Phoenix taking a little while to get work down. Not all the damage has connected onto it. Mass Kill goes into the grave. He goes. The Phoenix finally gets Emilzy killed off. In a fitting end for a Ganesh, where a neutral objective is the one who grabs the kill.
Well, Emilzy legitimately did not take damage from another person inside of that entire engagement. He loses his actual entire HP bar to the Phoenix. Gotta think he could have reset it at just about any point, just walks out of it, but instead is a team player through and through. You're right, that is very apt for a Ganesh player. Can't get kills and won't let his team die, and Emilzy gonna live up to that.
He got Divine Ruin.
That's huge.
That's going to be a lot of damage on Dharmic Pillars.
That's a lot of damage. Yo, it shreds health already. Now he's got some penetration and power in the build. Yo, let's go.
Yeah, let's go for Emilzy here. You'll have to wait 10 seconds after the Phoenix took him down. Not the cleanest from Goodnight Nick on the Phoenix siege there. Took a little while to get the Phoenix killed off. That said, you get the Phoenix and you get a kill. So who cares? Because it's Emilzy who ends up going down. He'll respawn. Now you can regroup with the rest of the FG for the next 2 minutes and push down the towers. And I will admit, Myth, you know, we were harsh on Goodnight Nick a little bit the last time that they played because they had an FG, and I remember there were a couple of times where they reset, and we were thinking, you probably could have done more there, like why and Goodnight Nick, they've completely flipped that script here in this game. Both times in both games where we've seen the Fire Giant taken from Goodnight Nick, the team is immediately grouped, immediately pushed down the right side Phoenix, and then gone back to reset. They've played aggressively around their FG buff here today, and they've given themselves a great opportunity to end this game.
Yeah, they're looking much better for it, having already stripped that right side. Phoenix means that just F6's defense is going to be split up. Toddy GR does a great job pushing out that right side lane, but it takes a very long time.
Massive Lord of the Afterlife from Listimics, but what did it cost? A little bit of everything, half HP at least for Listimics, so decent engage, but that'll just delay things. One ultimate down, the transformation I guess technically down from Sotos, but not quite as impactful as the Lord of the Afterlife. Just need a minion wave here, especially after the way the last Phoenix siege went. Emilzy's not going to be thrilled that he's already at half HP. And all it might take is one stun connecting onto Rotwin, who doesn't have beads, one stun connecting onto Toddy, who doesn't have either of his relics. Goodnight Nick are going to be in a great spot. Love the little roll there from Emilzy on this Ganesh. That is hilarious. Sorry, it caught me off guard. That is so silly, and I love every bit of it. To jump into the back line from Rotwin here, who gets stunned through by Emilzy. Powwow from Mass Kill forces the beads out of Wolfie, and the stun will get beads out as well. Big value from Wolfie with one set of beads. Ice into the back line. He's pulled Toddy back into the waiting arms of Goodnight Nick. Streak up. Strikes Paydirt. Wolfie on a killing spree. The Izanami swing and double kill for the Agni. Mass Kill will take one and go on back to the fountain, but Goodnight Nick got what they came for. 3 kills plus Phoenix.
And the mid Phoenix already has a minion wave pushed up towards it, so Goodnight Nick do not need to slow down here. Instead, though, maybe a little bit of an ambush set up. Sotos and Mass Kill privy to it, playing a little bit more defensively. And good night, Nick. Are you going for the Titan?
They are. They're grouping. No more Fire Giant buff, but the Titan going down quickly. Eyes on the 2-0 for Goodnight Nick. Just F6 waiting on the respawns. 3 members defending, make it 1. And the Titan will fall, and Goodnight Nick make quick work of Just F6. Game 2, 26 minutes.
Congratulations to Goodnight Nick on another well-earned victory in the European SCC, taking out Just F6, putting them at 1-7, I believe, within the standings.
Yep, and then it's an improvement in the standings for this Goodnight Nick team. Camera McCamera Face is actually no. We'll get to the naming conventions of this
It's
camera
Camia.
here.
We voted.
Look, we're gonna go over this in just a minute, Mifflin. If you would hold on, Goodnight Nick.
Sorry, I tried.
Grab themselves the 2-0 win here. They're looking good. This is a scary team to go up against. A couple losses earlier on in the phase, but starting to hit their stride, and a very difficult team to play against here in the EU SCC. Goodnight Nick. They grab themselves the 2-0 win. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss Camera McCamera Face and the 2-game win here for Goodnight
Let it go.
Nick.
It's Camia.
Everyone say hello to Camera McCameraface. Victory
Stop.
for Good Night Nick.
You're
I
gonna
don't-
confuse her. Camia, it's okay.
we're not attached. Okay. We gotta separate name from like creating it into a person here, Myth. Good Night Nick take a 2-0 win over Just F6. And as I said prior to the break, this is a scary team. This is a team that I think they're 5-3 now in the standings, does not really do this Good Night Nick team justice. They are a force to be reckoned with here in the EU SCC. Really upped the octane, admittedly, from last week. Look, Elysium is a very good team. You got to play slower and more calculated against Elysium because they're the type of team who will punish you for your mistakes. Good Night Nick just kind of opened things up here today, and there was a lot of fighting, a lot of scrapping, and they look good.
Yeah, they really do, man. It was a very contentious early game throughout both of those matches. A lot of early skirmishes, a little bit more so in Game 1. Game 2, slightly more calculated. I believe it was First Blood at the 7-minute mark. But really after that, Good Night Nick never looked back. A couple of stumbles around neutral objectives may have elongated this match more so than Good Night Nick would have liked. But at no point was Good Night Nick in a poor position. They were always nursing at least a 3,000 gold lead, and I think a lot of it might be due to the pressure that Deathwalker was able to generate out of the Soul Lane.
Look, we mentioned going into the game that Deathwalker, jokingly or not, tweeted about how Mulan is not like a great character. But he can't be tweeting that and then be looking good on Mulan, right? I mean, if you're gonna say Mulan is bad, you gotta look bad on it. Deathwalker looked great.
What a beast.
And Deathwalker was fantastic on the Mulan. Emilzy on one of my favorite picks in the Ganesh did some serious damage with those Dharmic Pillars. We will forget Myth. We'll roll over the one dropped Fury early on in the game because every other objective looked great for Good Night Nick as the game went on. Wow, it was Mass Kill against the world, huh? 6 kills for Mass Kill, none for everyone else except Lastimics, who's got 1. And there is some value, I think, in us talking about Mass Kill because, look, this Just F6 team, it's an uphill battle regardless of Mass Kill or not. You're in the hole a little bit as far as win-loss goes. You're getting towards the end of the SCC. You're making these changes for the future, hoping to re-qualify and do good, or do well, rather, in future games here in the SCC. Maskill is a talent, now that after a couple games that I've seen him play, that you're happy to have on your team.
Yeah, he made proactive plays throughout the early game, individual plays where it seems like he was just kind of acting as a solo agent and looked incredibly good. And then in the late game, maybe falls into some of the trappings that Just F6 had as a team before Maskill's arrival. I mean, it was just macro play that cost them a couple of these objectives, a couple of these matches. And Maskill being the rookie coming in probably can't be the sole solution to that. So I think all things considered, he does about as well that you can expect, and I'd argue even
Agreed.
better.
Unfortunately, not enough. And Good Night Nick will round out this week in the SCC with another 2-0. 2-0s across the board here in the EU SCC as well as the North American SCC. So I think this is all the expected teams winning. We had really close matchups last week as far as standing goes. This weekend, you go into a little bit more lopsided matchup again as far as standings go, a little bit more lopsided. And so the expected teams winning, and as such, the standings for EU probably look as expected. Elysium will be up top with that one loss handed to them by a resurgent Good Night Nick team, right in between those two, Team Joystick at 6-2, Pandemonium at 4-4. And so there's just this grouping up top, Miff, where Pandemonium, Good Night Nick, Joystick, Elysium, I guess all taking games off one another here as of late. And so moving forward, I think there's only 2 more weekends of SEC left. When you're 1 win away from all these teams, the 4th place team won't be able to jump up to 1st, things like that. But there could be some rotations, 1st to 2nd, 2nd to 3rd. And the EU SEC is going to be fun to watch down these next couple weeks.
Every individual set is going to have huge implications on the standings, and standings affect LAN in the future, your ability to compete against some of these pro teams as well. So I think that every single one of these games is a must-watch, at least for me, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, fun to watch the SEC down the stretch here. So now that we've done the SEC, we can talk a little bit about Camera McCameraface.
Camia.
Camera McCameraface. So what should the camera's name be was the poll that we had in chat.
Uh-huh.
And
who
to
won?
be clear, this is Camera McCameraface. When you see the camera moving, or it's this nice wide shot of
the
us.
artist
This is,
formerly known as Camera 2.
right, the artist
now-
formerly known as
now
Camera
Camia.
2. Jithens hasn't caught on yet. He keeps saying coming to Camera 2 for some reason. I don't know what that is because
Idiot.
it's Camera McCameraface. If it's on me or it's on Mifflin, not Camera McCameraface. This one is Camera McCameraface. Apparently Camia won, and so I will respect that chat voted for Camia. But Camera
You said
McCameraface
it.
is what I'm going to say. Like in the same way that I'm Dolson, but my
Uh-huh.
real name is David. That's the real name is Camia, but Camera McCameraface is what I'm going to
A term of endearment for you. But maybe
Correct.
when referring to, when you're speaking to chat, you don't want to use your in-house nicknames, Dave.
Hey, chat, that's Camera McCameraface, and you're
Cameo?
wrong. I'm sorry. SPL has been great up to this point here this weekend. Actually, a lot of fun to watch. But we still got more action in the SCC, as Mifflin and I have mentioned. Pandemonium versus Elysium. How about that matchup next week? Just F6 and Snake Hunters. And so that's an opportunity for two teams lower down in the standings in the EU SCC to grab a win and start to round out their phase on a good note. And then Team Joystick versus Goodnight Nick also
Ooh, chills.
will be a lot of fun to watch. And then some good NA SCC matchups to top it all off there as well. So that's some do not want to miss action in the SCC. There's only a couple more weekends of it left. Standings still able to be flipped around for a couple of those teams. Again, you won't see this big 4-1 jump, anything like that, but you might see some shifting in between the 1-2 spot, 2-3 spot, 3-4 spot, things like that. SPL this weekend has been fun. We have had a lot of competitive sets. We've had a lot of surprises and some not so surprising results. Camelot Kings started off the weekend with a 2-1 win over the Solar Scarabs, who have looked good up to this point. And then, admittedly, Miff, probably disappointing for Scarabs and Scarabs fans with how they came out against the Oni Warriors yesterday. You look good up against the Camelot Kings on Friday, and then, a bit of a
Titan
tumble
set.
yesterday. The Oni Warriors look great, though. Neoma and Georgia, we're always excited about that. But there is some fun Smite to look forward to here today. I think Kings versus Titans, our final matchup of the weekend, could be one of the most competitive.
Yeah, I fought actually to make that our premier set of the week, Red. I think the Camelot Kings versus the Tartarus Titans are going to have some great implications going forward. So make sure, if you guys do need to do something before the SPL starts, I don't know, do it quickly, I guess, is the only advice I can give.
Yeah, you've got 24 minutes to do it. Whatever it is, go do it and be back here in 24 minutes. The SPL is going to kick off here shortly. Can we close on Camera McCameraface? Is that possible, Justin? Thank you very much. Thanks for watching the EU SCC in 24 minutes time. Camera McCameraface plus the casters will be back. The SPL at 1 p.m. Stick around.